Back Row Ministry of the World Premiere, Mr. Martin coming at you live and direct. Well, it looks like they want to put Golden State back where they were last year, and that's on top, holding the belts. But we talked a lot about the Bay Area, a lot of things and events that might be taking place in the Bay Area. Remember, next year the Golden State Warriors will be placed in San Francisco. They have the new stadium, so pretty much kind of the closing part of the ritual to the opening of the new stadium. You know, they'll do it as champions. What happens after that, we shall see, because next season everything will change in the NBA again. So, talking about portals, the continual rituals, we saw a lot of deaths over the past weekend of May the 18th, going into, of course, the end of Game of Thrones and the finale of Game of Thrones. We saw a lot of deaths going into that finale. And we talk about the ritual of the woman becoming the president, possibly in America, leading the West. We see Daenerys, the dragon, representing the dragon coming on the shores of America, representing also the woman leader of the West, and her downfall at the end, betrayed by her subjects, betrayed by her warrior, her hero, at the end, stabbed by him, because he doesn't see things the way that she sees it. She doesn't see change. He didn't see change the way that she saw it. She saw change with basically decimation and no surrender. So we talk about this being the story of America being decimated. We got a lot of that in episode 5 of Game of Thrones. And episode 6 of Game of Thrones was pretty much the dragon falling, Russia falling, being betrayed by the Zionists, possibly betraying the dragon, and then creating this new order out of the chaos that was left in the wake of the dragon. And that's what we've been moving towards, you know, the one world government, the council of leadership, no longer just one person. And that's what the elite is. It's nothing but a council of leadership. That's all it is. But you saw in Game of Thrones, the women had a big say in what took place. And then we had the Supreme North stating that, no, we won't follow anybody. And the woman still in control in the North, that no, we're not going to follow anybody. The North will stay independent. We'll do our own thing. We'll stay away from everybody, and we'll just keep it the way it's always been. So just trying to find that representation of what the North and Sansa represented. What did that represent? So, but we still saw the women's agenda at its best. So a lot of questions was Jon the true king? Yes, Jon was the true king. They say the king is always judged by the crown and the weight of the crown that he carries. And the true king had to make a decision, and that decision was to slay the dragon. And in his mind, he tried to make excuses for the dragon, which, you know, you were going to see the excuses made of why the West had to be decimated. But at the end of the day, the dragon the hero began to fear that the dragon wouldn't stop. The dragon would go on and decimate more and more and more. So the hero had to, you know, make a decision to go ahead and decimate the dragon. So we see the turning on the dragon being slayed. The dragon then flies off and leads the world up to the elite to pretty much make the decisions. But the elite's decision is to have Bran the Broken to be the king. Now, why did they pick Bran the Broken? A lot of people don't understand the symbolism of Bran the Broken. Well, remember now, Bran is a mythological character. That's a Celtic character. I mean, we talk a lot about Scottish Rite of Freemason now being on top of the order. And that's what order out of chaos means. The order never changes. There's no such thing as a new world order. The only thing the order does is a new group of elitists take the power. So now we talk about the Scottish Rite taking power. The Scottish are taking the power. So we had Bran, who was the Celtic king in mythology, taking the power. And Bran is called the Raven in Celtic mythology. Bran only means raven. So that's where you get the term the Raven, three-eyed raven. So three-eyed raven represents the present, the future, the past, the present, and the future. That's why they call him the three-eyed raven. He can see the past, he can see things that will take place in the present, and he can see the future. That's why he's a three-eyed raven. So who better to be the king than the person who knows what's going to take place? He's controlling the events. He knows what's going to take place at any time. And people hit this right on the head when they talk about Bran is really the bad guy. He's not really the bad guy. He's the person who is caught in a perpetual time loop. Maybe he said, well, I'm caught in the past. No, he's not caught in the past. But in ways he is, because if I can see the future, it's like I'm in the past. I already know these things are going to happen. So I'm living life in the past. I can't be the king because, you know, I've seen everything that's going to take place. But the problem is with that is that he can't change time, because if he changes time, he doesn't know how things are going to turn out. So Westeros had to be destroyed. That's just something that had to happen. That's something that had to happen. Arya had to kill the Night King because that's something that had to happen. He's seen these things. He's foreseen that these things would take place, and these people had to be where they were supposed to be. That's why I say, well, you're right here where you're supposed to be at this time, because you are the reason why this happened. And then other things are going to happen to these characters that he knows are going to happen, but kind of like in some of the shows we were talking about, especially a lot of the Netflix shows, you can't change the time loop by telling people what's going to happen. People don't need to know what's going to take place. People don't need to know that, you know, you got to stop something, because sometimes things have to happen for the future to work out and play out the way it's supposed to. So he's the holder of time, but he can't break the code and laws of time because he can't tell anybody what's going to take place. And that's why he was made the king by Tyrion, because Tyrion understands he holds time. He knows what's going to take place. He's going to pretty much place people in the position they're supposed to be in moving forward, so things will work. So things pretty much worked the way that they were supposed to work out due to how time and the events were supposed to play out anyway. So everybody was where they were supposed to be. Even Bran at the end, because Bran knew he would be the king at the end. So a lot of, you know, poking and prodding, but we always talk about tie this stuff into rituals, tie this stuff into, I talk about a lot of death of women coming up. We had deaths of women that's starting to add up. We see Trump, once again, the last days of Trump, we've been in for a while, and we see now they're picking more and more and prodding at Trump. Will Trump make it to the next election is the question. Will all hell break loose right before the election cycle even starts? They got Elizabeth Warren, they're prepping her up, and also they're prepping up on Kamala Harris to possibly be the vice president. We don't know how that's going to go. But we're starting to see the players kind of taking effect. We're watching out for events like EMPs and lights being turned off and crazy weather and war. Because right now we're at the time of war. The Iranian-Iraq war has begun. And, you know, this is the beginning of the world war that we've been talking about. So it's not that we're trying to be morbid, but you just relate it to Game of Thrones. And this is where people fail. They don't relate things. Just relate it to Game of Thrones. Perpetual warfare. Game of Thrones. Iraq, Iran. This is a war that's been going on for a long time. This war just didn't start yesterday. This is a war, sorry, that's been going on for centuries. They just took a break. Iran was, you know, passive for a while, not doing anything, and now Iraq is in a position where it's going to be possibly wiped out. Remember, we don't have many soldiers left inside of Iran. We don't have many soldiers. So at the end of the day, Iraq is going to possibly, no, I'm good. Waiting on the car there. It's possibly going to, you know, stand a chance to change. We'll see the changes as time goes on. So just watch this piece. So World War has begun. So really Game of Thrones is kind of walking you to the ritual. We had the Tammuz rituals, we got the Ishtar's rituals, all inside of Game of Thrones. And then we got this whole piece about time and this obsession with time. It's been going on for the past 2-3 years now, where, you know, you're seeing a lot more shows where they're talking about time travel, and the importance of he who controls time, controls the world, he who knows the future. And, you know, we saw a king now who knows the future, but things have to play out. In the future, things have to play out a certain way. So a lot of that was in Game of Thrones this season. So let's watch to see how this plays. We say art imitates life, or life imitates art. So we're going into the war times. We told people this was coming. We couldn't stop this. Certain things you can't stop. So some people say, well, you got the information. Why can't you stop it? Because you can't stop it. You don't know what's going to come on the other side of this war. You know, a lot of these wars have been prophesized centuries before they start because something else is supposed to come. Life is nothing but time, past, present, and future. Most of our stories have already been written. We just have to find out what our stories are. Mr. Mockley, Back Road Ministry, peace.